All right, let's talk about something every single developer has to deal with. See, writing the code, that's just the first half of the story. The other, arguably more important half, is making sure that code doesn't just completely fall apart in the real world. So in this explainer, we're going to dive deep into software testing, and I'm going to show you how to turn it from a chore into your number one superpower for building rock-solid, dependable apps. Let's do this. To really appreciate why testing is so non-negotiable, let's just imagine for a second a world without it. What's the absolute worst that can happen when some new code gets shipped straight to production with zero tests? Well, for starters, bam, your payment API could just stop working. No money coming in. Every second that ticks by is costing the company real money. And guess who's feeling the heat? Or, and this one is kind of my nightmare, maybe a sneaky little bug starts to corrupt user data. Now, this isn't just about money anymore. This is about trust. And once you lose user trust, getting it back is next to impossible. Or, hey, maybe it's something that sounds simple but is just as catastrophic. The login page breaks. Just like that, none of your users can even get into the app. Game over. You put all of that together and what do you get? Yep, a full-blown production disaster. It is the exact scenario that keeps developers up at night, and it's precisely what a solid testing strategy is built to prevent. So, okay, it's pretty clear we need to test to avoid total chaos. But I want to challenge you to think about the goal a little differently. The real purpose of testing goes way deeper than what you might think at first. So, take a look at this. On the left, you've got the simple definition pretty much everyone starts with. Testing is about checking if the app works. And sure, that's part of it. But the real magic, the senior level insight, is over on the right. Testing isn't just about finding bugs, it's about building confidence. It's about creating a deep, fundamental belief that your system is solid and ready for anything. And when you have that confidence, you unlock some amazing benefits. For one, you stop those super expensive, stressful bugs from ever reaching production. The act of writing tests also naturally pushes you to write cleaner, better designed code. It creates this awesome safety net so you can refactor or add new features without being terrified you're going to break something. And honestly, mastering this skill is a huge deal for your career and how you perform in interviews. And let's be really clear about this. If you're aiming for a senior developer role, this stuff isn't optional. It's an expectation. Companies need their senior engineers to be the champions of quality, to write code that's easy to test, and to have a rock-solid grasp of overall testing strategy. Okay, so we're all on board with the why. Now let's get into the how. What are the actual tools we have in our testing toolbox? It really boils down to three main types of tests. First up, at the smallest level, you have unit tests. These are your bread and butter. They're super fast, they're isolated, and they just check one tiny piece of code, like a single function or a class. Then you step up to integration tests. These check how different parts of your system play together. Like, can your application actually talk to the database correctly? And finally, at the very top, you have end-to-end tests. These simulate a real user clicking through your entire app, maybe from logging in all the way to buying something. So now you might be thinking, okay, 3 types of tests. How many of each should I be writing? And that is a great question. You don't want to just do it randomly. You need a strategy. And the best one out there is called the testing pyramid. Let's break it down. This one concept is so important because it gives you a simple visual roadmap for where to put your time and energy to get the biggest bang for your buck. So here it is. This pyramid tells the whole story. You have a huge, wide base made up of tons of unit tests. Then, in the middle, you have a smaller layer of integration tests. And right at the tippy top, you have just a few end-to-end tests. Now, this shape is very deliberate, and understanding why it looks like this is the secret to a great testing strategy. So, why that shape? It all comes down to a trade-off, which this table shows perfectly. Unit tests are at the bottom because they are super fast and cheap to write and run. Their scope is tiny, but you have so many that they give you a solid foundation. As you move up the pyramid to integration and E2E tests, they get a lot slower and more expensive to maintain, but their scope gets much bigger. The pyramid strategy is all about balance. You get broad, fast feedback from your cheap unit tests, and then you get that high-level confidence from a few really important big-picture tests. So having the tools and the strategy is fantastic, but what really truly separates a good developer from a great one is the mindset they bring to testing. It's about the philosophy behind the code you write. You know, if you forget everything else from this explainer, please remember this one quote. Test behavior, not implementation. Test what your code does, its final result, not how it gets there. This is absolutely critical for writing tests that don't break every 5 minutes when you decide to refactor something. Let's look at a quick example to make this super clear. On the left, that's a bad test. Why? It's checking an implementation detail. It's tied to the fact that a specific method was called. If you go and rename that method later, the test breaks, even if the feature still works perfectly. Now, the good test on the right only cares about the behavior. It's saying, hey, I gave you this input. Did you give me the output I expected? That's a strong, resilient test. So with that philosophy in mind, here are some common traps to watch out for. First, don't just test the happy path where everything works. You have to actively try to break your code with weird inputs and edge cases. Also, be proactive. Write your tests before you find bugs, not just as a reaction. And finally, focus your energy where it matters most, on that critical, complex business logic, not on simple, trivial getter-setter methods. So how do you wrap all of this up into a nice, neat package? Let's say you're in a job interview. Here's your golden ticket answer. Testing ensures software reliability by validating behavior across unit, integration, and end-to-end levels. That one sentence proves you understand the technology, the strategy, and the ultimate goal. And that really brings us right back to the beginning. I want to leave you with this one question to think about. Look at your own projects, at your own testing habits, and ask yourself honestly, are you just finding bugs? Or are you strategically, intentionally building a suite of tests that gives you and your whole team real, unshakable confidence in your software? Because that's the difference between good code and great engineering.